The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET is what you need to win. Sign up today, bet $100 and get $100 at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. At sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. State restrictions apply. Yes, sir. We are back for another edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. No me, no the voice, no the guy. It's me, really real, villain real, Terrell Furman Jr. at your service. And got my co-host Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on?
Nothing much. Looking forward to going through some of the awards and the futures for today's episode. But it still feels a little bit weird. A part of me is missing with no NBA action for the pretty much the last week at this point. So definitely looking forward to the games resuming tomorrow. But of course, there's still money to be made. And I know that we got a lot of futures to talk about. How are you doing?
I just find it so funny and hilarious how football season will go on and be happening. Everybody's like, why are you betting the NBA? NBA sucks. No reason to bet NBA. But the one week in the season that there's no NBA action, everybody wants it. You know, there's a saying for that they say around, and it goes something like this: they only miss you when you're gone. And it's just so funny. I'm seeing people, handicappers, analysts, all these stuff everywhere talking about, man, I can't wait till the NBA comes back. It's nothing to bet on. These college games are bad. The hockey is not good right now. Like, where was all of that energy when we were giving out winners for the first half of the season? I'm glad that you and I have 24/7 hoops. We don't have to worry about this. We can bet hoops 24/7 year round all the time between NBA, WNBA, college basketball, all that time. We have hoops all year round. But it's just, I find it hilarious, the disrespect that the NBA is getting. They're getting a lot of disrespect, especially for that shitty All-Star weekend too.
Did you know that the All-Star Game ratings officially came out, and apparently they're down like 27% compared to last year?
I mean, I was part of it. I was definitely part of it. There's a whole crowd of us that watched the draft and then immediately turned over and watched Last of Us.
I think the draft, I get the idea, it's fun, whatever, but it got to the point where you were wondering if they were even going to play a game because the draft and all the pregame festivities took too long. You know what I mean?
Didn't care. I mean, that was my whole reason to watch it. So I didn't feel like it took too long because I'm like, I don't care about the game. So I know at this point after the draft, I'm pretty much tuned out of the rest of this contest. But for the most part, I thought the draft was so fun. Like, I thought the draft was really fun, especially watching and just looking for the expressions of the players who were going to be left last on the stage. Especially Lauri Markkanen, where after Jokic straight up said, yeah, I know for a fact I'm not going to be last. Lauri Markkanen is like, yeah, let me just go ahead and get up so I'm not awkwardly sitting on this stage by myself.
Pretty much. But at the end of the day, you have a situation where Jokic is the favorite to win the MVP, and he said directly, you should not try to draft me for a game like this. And I said that when we talked about the MVP odds. By the way, we didn't even take a victory lap for some of our weekend picks, at least together, because we haven't had a show since. But I do kind of wonder when the best player, or I'd say the favorite to win the best player award, which is basically what the MVP is, the fact that he even stated, like, you should not try to draft me in a game like this kind of tells you where the All-Star game's at and tells you that it doesn't mean anything. So why should viewers treat it seriously by watching it?
It's a charity game. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why everybody keeps trying to think of ways to make the All-Star game competitive. Like, what charity game ever in life is super, super competitive? Like, never. It's always a fun thing.
The only competitive All-Star game year in, year out, which is no longer a thing, was baseball, because they actually had an incentive where the winning conference, or the winning league in this case, would get home field advantage in the World Series if they won the All-Star game. Now, you can argue that's stupid because you're turning an exhibition game into something that's so meaningful that it's just not even like worth it, or it doesn't even make logical sense. On the other hand, if you're desperate to actually keep the game competitive, can you see the NBA adapting something like that or adopting it? Or do you think that it's something that...
Right. There's 82 games. Like baseball has a much longer season, but there's 82 games in the NBA season. There's no reason to add another meaningful game to this. Like you see, they're trying to add and trying to find ways to make these games more meaningful. Like, no, it's an all-star game. People just want to, they don't want to code. Like, yes, you have the hardcore NBA fans that want to go see a competitive basketball game with defense, all this stuff, yada, 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 yada. But you have a whole bunch of kids, you have a whole bunch of casual fans that just want to go see a bunch of crazy fucking highlights for 2 hours. Like, that's it. So I don't think that there's any reason to constantly try to find ways to make it competitive. This was a year where the Elam ending didn't mean anything because Team Giannis was up so many, so it really didn't matter. But you've had other years where the Elam ending made it pretty okay to watch the fourth quarter. Like, okay, it had a bad year. Come back next year and just hope that the teams are close in the fourth quarter and they're actually playing some defense, trying to see who can actually win the game at the end. But other than that, there's no reason to try to add all these different stuff trying to make this game competitive. Like, the draft was fun. That was a really fun moment. You got a bunch of clips from it. You got a bunch of things to talk about. Publicity went up because of that. The game, just leave it alone. There's no reason to keep trying to make changes.
I think the draft being live was a little bit much for me. I was fine with the studio version when you had Barkley and everyone in the studio and you just had LeBron and Giannis making picks, or Durant making picks is the funniest one because that was with the Harden situation happening at the same time. I don't think you need it live. I feel like that was a little bit overboard, but at the end of the day,
I loved it live.
I think you can argue that it was fun, but I think just on principle, not knowing the teams until like 5 minutes before the game seems a little bit odd.
But that's what you're going for, and that's what Kevin Durant was.
I know it's what they were going
said,
for.
but that's what Kevin Durant was talking about. Like, let's make it the best pickup basketball game in the world. Like, the greatest pickup basketball game in the world, where you're literally just picking these people. The only thing I would have preferred that would have made it more fun is if these guys are really lined up like they're in the gym and you're just like, I got him. Hey, I got him. No, hey, let me get him. No, not him. Him. Yeah, let me get him. Like, that would have been like, oh, everybody would have been sitting like, dang, that joint feel like the open rec. But how they had it, it was fun. It was good. The only thing that they messed up was they had a live mic on Chuck and Shaq, which was actually kind of funny if you could pick out what they were saying, because they were trying to decide, what is he about to go get Drew Holiday here? Oh, he did draft Drew Holiday. Like,
I thought you were going to say Giannis trying to draft Ja when he wasn't able to draft.
No, that was funny as well. But the live mic was very funny when you actually picked out what they were saying. It was very annoying to hear, and the production truck was probably going crazy, like turn them off. But it was very funny when you were sitting there picking out what they were saying, and they literally said, like, oh, he's got to go get Drew Holiday first. He's definitely about to. Oh, he didn't get him. He was like, dang, that's crazy. It's tough. And so it was kind of funny. So yeah, I liked the live draft. I thought it was very fun, very way to at least keep me watching the game for the most part. Like, it kept my interest until the game actually started, and I think that's a good thing.
I think it makes sense the ratings were down. I thought the game was horrible, but congrats.
You didn't watch it. You didn't watch it.
No, but you see highlights and nobody.
No, you didn't watch it. You can't say I thought the game was horrible. You didn't watch it, Scott.
I mean, let's be real for a second.
At least I watched the first quarter. I watched the first quarter.
No, but let's be real for a second though, because you're watching the game and there's not even any defense in the fourth quarter. Usually there's some pride in the final, quarter, and that didn't even happen. Plus, both captains got injured midway through the game. Giannis, I didn't think would play. He ended up having a dunk and then he left. And then LeBron got injured in the, second quarter, third quarter?
Something like that. I didn't watch that point in the game, so I don't know.
That's my point. My point is that both captains got hurt, and I'm sure that didn't help the ratings when LeBron got injured. He didn't play the entire second half, basically. And then you ended up having it wasn't even a glorified, it was just a scrimmage. Congrats to Tatum. He had 55 points. Congrats to him, but the product was not good. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. I understand your point. It's an exhibition game. What do you want from them? I think they could have a cash prize, but then again, most all-star guys
they make millions. Nobody cares.
Are making $200-something million. I don't think they care about the $1 million either. So, yeah, it's really tough to find a way to make games competitive when players are in the middle of their time off playing in scrimmage which they know is a scrimmage.
The easy solution is to just
Dissolve.
let it be what it is. Just let it be what it
I
is.
thought you
It
were going to
doesn't
say
matter.
dissolve it, but that's a separate.
No, just let it be what it is. It's an all-star game. It's a glorified exhibition game. It's a scrimmage game. It's something that you're probably going to have more enjoyment if you're actually in the building than if you are watching on TV, to be honest, because watching highlights and watch stuff like that, it hits a lot more when you're in the building. So it's probably something that you have a lot more fun when you're there and opposed to when you're not. But for the most part, I don't care. Like, leave it be. Leave it be. I don't have to watch that game. I got to watch 82 other games for the rest of the season. I don't have to watch that one.
I think the
All right.
argument is the NBA spending so much money and resources to have that game in the first place, and the fact that nobody's watching it means that it's not worth their time. I feel like that's the counter argument.
No, it's a whole bunch of other things that go into All-Star weekend than just the All-Star game. So it's
I kind of
definitely
meant for
worth their
TV
time.
rating purposes, but
Oh,
okay.
well, Steve, yeah, they're not concerned about that. Like, you're getting the All-Star game as just that's just a
Gravy.
added perk to all the other thing. Yeah, to everything else that you're getting. Like, it's a side item to everything else you're getting when you pay for a TV contract with the NBA. So nobody really cares if ratings are down. I promise you, the NBA doesn't give a fuck. All right. Before we get into the futures, let me just go ahead and knock out this because we have the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and that is WinBet. WinBet is now active in a bunch of states, and they have live betting, same game parlays, aka the Win Build Your Own Bet. I gotta get some build your own bets going for the NBA. I might have a special one for tomorrow. Be tuned to that. Great promos, odds, and payouts are happening right now at WinBet. Sign up today and receive a special offer. Bet $100. Get $100 limited to state availability. And of course, if you have the biggest long shot parlay of the week, then you will get an additional $1,000 free credit. So much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/winbet. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. Opposite change terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 older and present state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Let's kick things off with.
Well, I do want to ask you, though, before we get into the awards, there was one piece of NBA news yesterday, which might tie into some award stuff. I doubt it, because the team's not very good. I know I mentioned them as my pick yesterday in the Eastern Conference breakdown with Munaf. Is Trae Young a coach killer?
No, I just think that the Hawks suck and the Hawks don't have any accountability for them sucking other than blaming the next coach that walks through the door.
McMillan's the scapegoat, and once again, I'm not sure how much of an impact it's going to have for the rest of the season, but I do at least want to bring it up because that was the main piece of news, was Nate McMillan getting fired or mutually departing or whatever you want to call it. They got rid of him, basically. You have any takeaways you want to share? Because I feel like we had to talk about it briefly before we got into the awards.
No, I didn't actually think we had to talk about it at all. I was perfectly fine
Really?
waiting until we broke down the next Hawks. Yeah, I was totally fine waiting until we broke down the next Hawks game because it truly doesn't matter other than the fact that Atlanta's just a terribly run organization and they've been that for an extremely long amount of time. And now you just have what they did with the last coach where it's just another scapegoat and you're moving them out the door. You're going to bring another coach in and you're going to try to do the same thing and you're probably going to end up in the same predicament. So until the Hawks front office decides that we want to actually be a capable front office that takes this team from a borderline playoff team some years, maybe a playoff team some years, to actually competing year in, year out, other than one Eastern Conference Finals trip, then they'll be better. But right now, the front office doesn't want to be an NBA front office. They're a glorified Houston Rockets in the East Coast, except the fact that they have the talent where they can compete night in and night out sometimes. But other than that, I really didn't have anything for this. I knew it was going to happen. We all knew it was going to happen. He was clear. He was the clear scapegoat in that situation.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he got fired. I'm a bit surprised at the timing because they waited until basically after All-Star weekend, and now they have a day or two to fully regroup with a brand new coach, which I think is a little bit weird. But I gave out Atlanta to miss the playoffs before the news broke. I still feel basically the same about it because Atlanta's just not a very good team. We do agree about the scapegoat angle, where we just think that they're going to blame the coaches because they're paying the players too much, that they don't want to blame them. If you had to actually blame somebody that you think is worthy of all the blame or most of it.
Already said it.
Okay,
Front
fair enough.
office. It's the front. It's 100% the front office. The Atlanta Hawks front office is one of the worst front offices in the
For the
league, and I
DeJounte
stand on that.
trade, or you have other stuff, or
No,
kind of just a
not for
combination?
the DeJounte trade. I thought the DeJounte trade was okay, but it's the fact that they are not. They just sitting there and saying that we have a couple of stars, and that's going to be it. They take no accountability in the development of the rest of the team, in the coaching staff, and clear and obvious how they got Pierce up out of there, how they've got McMillan out of there, that they're just going to throw a bunch of players to these coaches and say, make it do what it do, not take any of their thoughts into accountability of these players and just say, hey, well, you made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with a group like this, so you should be able to get it done. The fact that John Collins is still on his roster is absolutely like mortifying to me.
I can't believe they paid him during the offseason.
It doesn't make sense at all. So first you pay him, then you pay him, and like, oh, we made a mistake paying him. Now we're trying to trade him. Now you can't find anybody. You can't get a trade done with them, and it's a terribly run front office. The front office should take the brunt and majority of blame. And I'm not putting it on the players. I'm not putting it on the coaches. I think that this situation right here is a complete front office collapse by the Atlanta Hawks.
I think you're right, but I do think that some of it's on Trey because he just doesn't play off ball, and you could argue with better coaching, maybe he would do it, but the backcourt hasn't worked because Trey's has not been able to operate in a complementary guard spot, and DeJounte wants the ball in his hands as well, and when you have two ball-dominant guards together, it's not going to work out if neither of them are going to play that well off ball. DeJounte does occasionally. Trey really doesn't, and that was one thing we were kind of hoping that he would add to his game, and he really hasn't, which is kind of a problem, but I agree with you about the front office, though. The Collins move, and a big reason why they can't move Collins is because the contract is so bad, you probably have to attach some draft capital to it, but you just traded your draft capital for DeJounte Murray, so now you don't even have a sweetener to throw in for somebody to take the Collins contract.
Or you could have not signed him in the first place.
No, I'm saying once they signed
him, it's just bad decision after bad decision, and trying to correct a bad decision, and
it compounded the issue. That's what happened.
Yeah. So
okay.
Well, let's just go ahead and take that and segue to the Eastern Conference for our futures market, because we have the Eastern Conference Finals. Let me go ahead and read off some of the odds for the Eastern Conference Finals.
Eastern Conference Finals, correct?
Yes, this is to win the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay.
You have Boston Celtics at plus 115, Milwaukee Bucks at plus 220, Philadelphia 76ers plus 550, Cavs at 11-1, Miami Heat at 20-1, Brooklyn Nets at 45-1, and you're starting to get in some really large numbers after that. Sitting here today, it feels like this is a two-horse race. I will accept any other argument for somebody else to come in, and I think there is a slight argument, but the head coach of one team just doesn't give me any confidence in them in making a playoff run. But it's a two-horse race for me, Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, we completely agree eye to eye here. I'm not going to try to give you another team that has a shot. Unless Giannis is seriously hurt, which apparently he avoided a serious injury, but you never know if he's going to stay that way. But assuming nothing else serious happens to Giannis, and assuming the Boston Celtics stay relatively healthy, assuming Brown and Tatum don't miss any serious time, Philly's the third option at 550 or so. Cleveland's at 11-1. I'm with you, though. I see a two-horse race. I'm picking Boston if I had to pick any team right now. But I don't have anything else to add. It's a pretty short discussion for me. I don't see a Cinderella team that I'm going to make a case for. I'm not going to look at Miami and go, 20-1, because they might be a play-in team, and I'm not going to try to bother with an aging team to make it back or to make a deep run. I got Boston, but I do agree with you. I think it's between Boston and Milwaukee.
Yeah. For me, I'm on the Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm just going to take Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Jrue Holiday, who, again, their record when they're playing together is absolutely phenomenal when all three of those guys are in the starting lineup. So
they've won 12 straight at the moment as a team.
Yeah, I think they are on a winning streak as a team. I don't know the exact number, but I know that it's some crazy number when you take like the combined games that Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis have all played together. And I'll ride that into the Eastern Conference Finals and to the NBA Finals in my case. So getting plus 220 with that number, I think is a pretty good price. And especially if you have the Boston Celtics, you definitely have a really good hedge opportunity because I'm pretty sure they should be favored to win every single series they're in. So you'll get some nice plus money on whoever they're going against if you want to hedge out of that. But I really do think it's a two-horse race. These are the two most talented teams in the conference. While there is a lot of other good teams in the conference, I think these two are just on another level. Like this is tier one. Tier two is probably Philadelphia by themselves. I don't know if I'm adding Cleveland to tier two just yet, but I think Philadelphia is on a tier by themselves where they have the talent and they have everything it takes to be competitive with the Bucks and with the Celtics. But for me, it's just I don't trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs, and uh, I think you more than me definitely don't trust James Harden in the playoffs as well. So that is what keeps them right below. They just don't have the pedigree that the other two teams have in making playoff runs. But Cleveland Cavaliers next on that tier as well. After
You have the
that,
Cavs by themselves, or you have another team with the Cavs?
I think I have the Cavs by themselves. I think it's like tier two is Phil because it's just a really big gap between 1, 2, 3, and 4 and everybody else.
I think that's
But
why I'm putting Philly with Cleveland in a second tier, just because the drop off after 4 is pretty large. So I
but I
think I
still
will
think there's a
group Philly
drop
with
off. I
Cleveland.
think there's still a drop off between Philly and Cleveland.
There might be a drop off, but it's closer than the drop off between 4 and 5, for
Yeah, no,
example.
no, it's definitely closer. But I would okay, so maybe 2.5. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's fine.
I don't think that Philly and Cleveland are necessarily the same tier. It's just the fact that the drop off is so big after 4 that it makes Philly and Cleveland look a lot closer than they are. And I think Cleveland just has to get to the playoffs and be able to prove themselves. They still haven't gotten there to prove themselves. We don't know what they look like during a playoff run. And so I just can't give them the benefit of the doubt right there. They got to be a tier, at least a tier below Philly.
And I do want to ask you though, because since the Celtics are basically half the odds that the Bucks are, they're about half a game separated for the 1 seed, and yet Boston's minus 275 to get the 1 seed. Do you agree with those odds? Or do you think that Milwaukee should be cheaper to win the 1 seed? Because Giannis, even though he avoided serious injury, probably still going to be out for a week and change. Milwaukee, we know, has been very careful with his injury history in the second half of seasons in years past. Do you think that's a fair price? Because they are separated by like half a game.
I think that it's a fair price, just not knowing how long Giannis is going to be out in the first place.
Yeah, that's why
And
I kind of
so
agree
it,
with it. But
and yeah, that's really it. So if I knew that Giannis was playing the rest of the season, then I would say that you are absolutely idiotic for laying that amount of juice with the Celtics. Not and Giannis is fully go for the rest of the season. But the fact that Giannis could miss 3 games, I'm not even saying he's missing an extended amount of time, but let's just say he doesn't play the rest of the month. And that's the Heat, the Suns, and the Nets. Suns expect that to be a really good matchup. He always played the Bucks tough, so they could actually come out and get a win on Friday. We'll break that down here on the NBA Gambling Podcast on Friday. And the Nets, they're not going away. The Nets have decided that they're not going away. They're going to play really good ball. So say that you're missing Giannis for 3, maybe 5 games. That is enough to set you back in what is a really, really close race here with about 23 games to go.
yeah,
I,
give or take.
I think that there's a lot of value. And because of that, I think there's a lot of value on the Bucks because the Bucks could very well do really good in this stretch. Then you get Giannis back. And now you're just basically hoping that a game or two doesn't go the Celtics' way. And the Bucks are able to sneak in there a game above, a game and a half above in the last minute. So I think that it's a nice sweat if you have the Bucks. And I probably would place down on the Bucks just to get a little sweat going. But for the most part, I think that with Giannis being out, it's a lot of risks to be had. And I think that that's a pretty decent price, minus 275. Not that I'm betting it, but a pretty decent price and it makes sense for the Boston Celtics to be laying minus 275
And
as
Boston's fully
must see.
healthy again because Marcus Smart came back, Jalen Brown's coming back,
Yep.
Robert Williams came back, and he's been good since he came back. Brogdon had some time off, so you're hoping he'll be healthy. They're close to, if not at full strength at this point, so I can understand why Boston's a pretty hefty favorite.
What I will say is that if you're this could be setting up, depending how these two teams go for about the next month. This could be setting up that the March 30th matchup in Milwaukee between the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks is potentially for the 1 seed. because after that you have what, five? You have 5 games after that, so they're near identical records at that point in the season, and they play that game on March 30th. Effectively, that game's going to be for the 1 seed, and Milwaukee's at home. So,
From what
but
I've seen historically, I think Milwaukee's going to start benching people in the second half of the season.
yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that you have going for you if you like Milwaukee is for the rest of the season is the fact that Chris Middleton still needs to work himself in. And so at the very least, you're getting Chris Middleton, who's starting to play better and better and better. And I think that we can expect to see him in the starting lineup
And you're hoping to see
after.
Bobby Portis back at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't forget Bob Portis definitely has to work himself back. So you know that those two guys, for the most part, are probably going to be playing for the rest of the season just to get those guys ready for the playoffs. But a guy like Drew Holiday, I could definitely see some load management games for Drew Holiday because he's played a lot of games this season. All right. That's a lot easy. So we got the easy conference out the way. It's really a two-horse race for the Eastern Conference Finals in my eyes. However, if one of these teams does fall off, because we've seen it, I think we saw it with who we see. No, not with Boston. We saw it with somebody last year. One of these teams could very well fall off and find themselves in the 3 spot. If they do, or even the 4 spot. Well, no, not the 4 spot, maybe the 3 spot. Because what's the difference between it's 3 games back? Yeah, so maybe you can find yourself in the 3 spot if you fall off enough, but I doubt either one of them fall off enough. So more than likely, how you're looking at it, you're probably getting an Eastern Conference Finals matchup between these two teams. I don't think that there's a path for them to meet before that, unless somebody falls to 4, I believe. Yeah, that's right. If somebody falls to 4, then there would be a second round matchup. But other than that, it looks like an Eastern Conference Finals matchup between Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks is the most probable in this situation.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move over to the next conference, the absolutely loaded conference in the Western Conference, because you have a lot of teams that are in it. Now, that may be fool's gold, but you have a lot of teams that have a claim. You have Denver, who has a claim, 41-18, number one. Some people are higher on Denver than others in this network. As listeners to this podcast, some people are a lot higher on Denver. You have the Memphis Grizzlies, who, if you ask them, they think that they're completely winning it all and they're the best team in the league this year. You have, let's see. I guess you could throw the Clippers in there. I'm not ready to. I got to see what the Kings do this second half of the season. It's just really giving Cavs last year, where the Cavs got into a great start, and then after All-Star break came, and they completely fell off and found themselves not even in the playoffs. So
Yeah, well, if you're going by odds, then the order would be Suns.
oh
and
yeah, no,
Nuggets,
I'm just going by the
Mavericks. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to get to that. Hold on. But just reading down the actual order standings: Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, Clippers, Suns are sitting there. Suns getting a huge bump up when Kevin Durant comes back. So that'll be something to look up forward to. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are starting to get rolling with the Mavericks. They're coming in at 6. And then you even have like some teams in the play-in that very well could be in it. New Orleans Pelicans is one team. They're fully healthy. If they can get fully healthy this season, they're a team to look out for. Minnesota's just kind of hanging around there. I'm not really a believer in them. Golden State is there, though, as well. Golden State can come out of it. And then coming all the way down to the team everybody wants to hear about, the Los Angeles Lakers, who currently sitting at 13th in conference, do have a shot because what is this? The play-in from 7 to 13 is separated by 3 games. So they do have a shot. Odds for the Western Conference, we have. Oh wait, that's the wrong team. There we go.
I can list it if you.
Yeah, Western Conference, we have plus 235 for the Phoenix Suns, plus 390 for the Denver Nuggets, plus 450 for the Los Angeles Clippers, plus 750 for the Memphis Grizzlies, and for the Dallas Mavericks also at plus 750. Golden State Warriors at plus 850. Los Angeles Lakers sneaking all the way up at 20-1. 25-1 is the New Orleans Pelicans and the Sacramento Kings, who are currently third place. Like, they're third place, but still 50-1. A lot of people not believers in the Kings. I mean, it's really hard for me to come up here and not tell you that the Phoenix Suns are going to win the Western Conference.
I'm assuming they will as well. if Durant and Booker stay healthy. I'm not sure if Chris Paul needs to stay healthy, but I don't know if people are ready to have that discussion. But I think as long as Booker and KD are healthy, I think that's good enough for me.
No, I think Chris needs to stay healthy too.
I think it's preferred, but I think
I
they
think
could
he's
survive without
I
him,
think he's.
in my opinion.
I don't think they. I don't think that they make a. I don't know. I think this conference is too stacked. I don't think they make a finals trip if Chris Paul's not healthy.
Chris
I think
Paul is
they're
one of
really
my favorite
good.
players of all time, but I'm looking at this past season and even dating to the series against the Mavericks last year. He's nowhere near the same player that he used to be. That's all I'm going to say. Now, you could say that he still has value, and I'll agree with you. But the fact is, offensively, he's really just a shell of his former self. And I think as a result, Phoenix could hypothetically survive if Paul is out for a couple of games in a Western Conference Finals, in my opinion. But
I think that offensively,
I might be in
it
the
depends how
minority
you
there.
look at it. I
But
think it depends how you look at it. But in terms of his playmaking and as a floor general and the point guard of that team, he's still doing really well. Like he turned it on after he came back from that injury. He actually has been playing a lot better basketball than what he was earlier in the season, which was part of the woes that the Suns were going through early on in this season. So, uh, yeah, I think Chris Paul needs to be there. I don't think I'm picking the Suns if Chris Paul isn't there against a lot of these teams in the Western Conference because I still think I think Golden State isn't going to go away. I think that Dallas just went all in this year. Like Mark Cuban went all in this year. And I still think that when they get like a Maxi Kleber back and they have that wing player that can also shoot the outside three and space the floor more, like they're going to be a lot better.
for the record,
Memphis,
I am not picking Dallas to win the West.
I mean, the
I don't think
Sun
they're
is
good enough
clear.
defensively, but
I mean, they were better defensively last year. I'll give you that.
yeah,
But
but I'm saying you
I,
trade Finney Smith, you trade away a couple of pieces there. I'm not sold on their defense. I don't think they're good enough.
mm, I don't know. I've been hearing that argument a lot, and Finney Smith is a good defender, but I don't think he's an all-world defender that completely changes that. I think that they're the same bad defensive team that they were when he was there.
Okay, and before I don't think they were good enough defensively to win a title anyway. But
Yeah,
you're looking at the last couple of games, allowed 128. It did go to overtime against Sacramento, but allowed 124 to Minnesota, allowed 118 to Denver. The Denver one's tricky because Kyrie didn't play, but defensively they have not exactly been good lately. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
no, I get that, but I think that especially with teams that I know can be solid defensive teams that aren't playing really good defense right now. I think that next I look towards the coach and just say, hey, is this a coach that can rally this team together and get them right defensively for a playoff run? And Jason Kidd has shown that he can do that. Like I trust Jason Kidd that he can do that. You're getting Reggie Bullock some more minutes, and he's a better on ball defender on the perimeter as well. So Dallas defensively, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, but I think that I trust Jason Kidd enough that when it gets closer to playoff time, when we get into playoff time, like this is going to look like a better, not going to be anything top 10, which is why I don't think that they have a chance to win the NBA finals because you got to be a top defensive team. Like that's just the history of the NBA. You got to be a really good defensive team to be able to win it, the NBA finals.
I think one problem I also have with Dallas is the fact that their home road splits are so jarring, and based on where they're currently located, they might have, I can't even say home court advantage at any series at any point in the playoffs. So if they're going to have to win at least one road game in every series, I'm not picking that team to make a deep run in the playoffs. You have to show them something on the road.
Oh no, I think that this is a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. I think his Suns Mavericks again, but I think the Suns carry it.
In which round?
In the Western Conference Finals. I think
really?
It's in the Western
Dallas
Conference
making the Western Conference Finals. Okay.
Yeah, I think Dallas can make a run. Like if you're sitting here looking at these teams, there's nobody that really, really jars me in thinking that trusting Luka Doncic in the playoffs is going to go against my favor. Like I understand, but I do think that there's a possibility that even terribly defensively, Dallas will still outscore every single team they play against. And so majority of these teams, I don't think that they can win a shootout with Dallas. If they play how they played in those first couple of games before All-Star, because the offensive numbers are crazy. There was like 3 games in a row where they were shooting 50% every single game and damn near 50% from 3 every single game as well. those offensive numbers are jarring. So if they keep that offense going and that's what we have to look forward to, there's a lot of teams that even though they might be better defensive teams, they're not going to keep up offensively with the Dallas Mavericks. And so
I'm just pointing it out that they are 12-19 on the road. So I'm not going to pick them to make a run if I don't trust them to potentially win a series if they have to win one road game.
yeah, but I don't look at home road stats in the
It's
regular
different because they have
season compared
Kyrie
to
as well. So a lot of their stats came before Kyrie. So
home
I
road
get it.
stats. I don't think it. I truly don't think home road stats matter when it comes to the playoffs. Like I think that when you get a playoff time, you turn it on and it's in a different mode, and you know that every game, every single game you play in is your life in the playoffs. So I expect to see a lot more intensity, even on the road for some of these squads. There's been bad road teams. Like Golden State is consistently not the best road team. Like I think Steve Kerr has. There was a
They've never
stat,
been
and they
this
showed
bad,
it.
but
No, they've never been this bad, but it's not like they've been good. You just said that Dallas was 12-19. I'm sure that there was years where Golden State probably didn't have the best road record. However, they're still able to go in there and turn on a different mode in the playoffs. Like I just think the playoffs is a whole different beast, and you got to take out some of that other stuff. So home road splits, yeah, I think that that's good for regular season where I'm kind of counting that, but the playoffs, I'm kind of throwing everything out and giving everybody a clean slate.
okay. So to go through the actual odds or picks for this conference, I agree with you on Phoenix. I just think with Booker and with Durant, they have two top 10 players in the league, one top 5 player in the league, and I think that's good enough. Not to mention Ayton. I know we roast him
Oh,
on
you
the
think
show.
Devin Booker's a top 10 player?
I do. When
Okay,
healthy,
great. All right. No, I do too. I do too. I do too. I'm just saying
yeah, I
that
said
it's a
two
lot
top
of
10
people that
players.
don't say that. Yeah, I just don't think a lot of people don't agree with that. Like, I'm just going
I think
with
people don't
people that are
because they
listening. A
hate him.
lot of people don't agree with that.
Because they think that he talks too much trash, and it's kind of why people hate Memphis. Is because he trash talked Luka, and then Luka punked him for 2 games. But it doesn't change the fact that when healthy, Booker's a top 10 player in the league,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
No, I agree. I agree. It's
So
just a lot of people
Phoenix, I
won't
got to
admit that.
pick. Besides that, Denver.
I don't see any reason to think that this is going to be any different from Denver of previous years.
I'm going to throw in Denver into the mix because I have to. I think they'll be the 1 seed.
Why
So
do
I'm
you
going
have
to have
to?
to throw them in because they're the 1 seed. The
Mm,
Clippers are the team I'm
we've
the
seen one
most
seeds not make the play, would not make the finals.
Yeah, we've seen 1 seed lose in the first round too. But I'm saying since, altitude and the fact they're 27-4 straight up at home, I do want to at least bring up Denver. I'm not going to write them off. That's what I'm saying. I'll,
If
I'll,
if
I'll wait for the
Denver,
matchup.
okay, let's consideration. If Denver pulls Golden State in the first round, you have a healthy Steph Curry, healthy Golden State, getting Denver in the first round. Are you picking Denver? Because this is the
You're
most
higher on
likely.
Golden State than I am, but based on
That's
matchups,
why I'm asking you because you're lower on Golden. I know I'm picking Golden State, but you're lower on Golden State than me. That's why I'm asking you. If you have Denver versus Golden State in the first round as the 1-8 matchup, are you picking Denver?
that's really tough though, because I'm really not into this Golden State team this year. I think I would probably lean to Golden State, but it's mostly just based on pedigree and reputation.
But the fact that you even have to think about it
I
and
know
you're
means that
struggling to
I
make
don't
a
trust Denver to
decision,
make a run because that's the first round of the playoffs.
like that's
I
the
get
first
it.
game, that's the first matchup, and you don't even think that they could possibly make it out in the first. There's no
I
way
get
I'm
it.
taking
The
Denver.
point is, I'm trying to toss teams out. I
Yeah,
can't toss Denver out when they're going to be the 1 seed and they're 27-4 at home. So I got to at least include them in my short list. The Clippers are the most fascinating team to me because we know that when or if Kawhi and Paul George are healthy, this team's been really, really good. And they've been especially good lately. They got Westbrook. I hate the move, but it's in the past now. They got him. I don't know if he's going to play much, but still.
is it really in the past? I don't think it's in the past. I think that's very much present.
No, it's in the past because they can't reverse their decision. He's on the roster. That's my
Oh
point.
no, they can reverse their decision.
They
They
might.
can
I mean,
cut
they
him.
can
They can
keep him
definitely
warm
cut
on the
him.
bench during the playoffs, but I don't like the move. I feel like you might agree with me on that. I talked about it briefly yesterday with Munaf. But the Clippers are a team that I still don't want to trust in a playoff series, but I do acknowledge at full strength they definitely have the capabilities of making a deep playoff run. But that's assuming Kawhi and Paul George and even Norman Powell's had injuries in the past. That implies that they can stay healthy, and that's still a bit too much of a question mark for me. Are you writing off the Clippers?
Yes, I actually took the Clippers at 7-1 to not make the playoffs.
Okay.
I think that this is very very jumbled Western Conference where if they are not healthy for the rest of the season, if they continue to load manage for the rest of the season and they take a few L's, they could very much find themselves in the play-in, and we've seen what they've done in the play-in last year. So I think that there is a very decent possibility that the Clipper, at least enough for me to take a 7-1 bet. Do I have full confidence that that bet is going to cash? No, but am I absolutely going to love it? And would I kick myself if I didn't take the bet and it did cash? Absolutely. So yeah, I think the Clippers are probably deserving of. Yeah, I guess you could say they're deserving, and you're just giving it the Kawhi Leonard effect. But to be honest, we haven't seen Kawhi Leonard get back to this mountaintop since 2019. And yes, injuries have been the cause of
When
that.
you say mountaintop,
And
you
I
mean
can't take that out of his
championship,
head.
or you mean top
Of
5 player in the league?
at least getting, well, not even both. You could really
Okay.
say both. But what I was
Because Kawhi
talking
has been
about or
incredible the last
referring
month.
to.
That's why I'm making sure we're on the same page here.
No, yeah, definitely. I think that is both. He hasn't gotten back to his status as a top 5 player in the league. He hasn't gotten back to the NBA finals. And I think injuries have a big part to do with that. And because of those injuries, he's not getting in rhythm. He's not playing as many games. He's not reassuring himself that he is a top 5 player in the league. That, and we both know when Kawhi Leonard is all the way on, he's absolutely a top 5 player. But do I know that I'm getting that Kawhi Leonard? I really don't, and I don't want to bet money on that.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with you, but I am keeping an eye on the Clippers because I do at least recognize how well they've played recently. So I'll give them a little bit of a kudos there. I'm not picking Dallas. I'm not
The
picking
Clippers are
Golden
a
State.
team. The Clippers are a team that I'm perfectly fine being late on. I'm
Yeah,
perfectly fine making them prove it to me that they can play on that level, that these players are back. Injuries are not going to be a problem. And I'm perfectly fine waiting until the playoffs, seeing them in the playoffs and saying, oh, wait, now I changed my mind. I think that this Clippers team actually can make a pretty nice run, but there's no way I'm taking a future out on them.
even
Absolutely
with
not.
Paul George and Kawhi, I really hate them late in fourth quarters. I think they're a horrible team late in games, and I've seen it for months. They're really not good with the game on the line. We saw it against Milwaukee. I know they came back and beat the Knicks after they choked a massive lead because Batum hit a buzzer beater game tying three. They choked away a massive lead in that game too. I don't like how they finish games in the fourth quarter. That's a
Yeah.
serious problem that I have with this Clippers team, and I think it'll come back to bite them in the playoffs. But anyway, I have 3 teams that I'm seriously considering. The Clippers are on the fence, so I guess they're my hypothetical 4th team. The Suns are obvious. I'll include Denver because they're roughly 4-1 and they're probably going to be the 1 seed. I think for odds purposes, I know people hate this team, and I do think a big piece of it's because of injury. I got to at least mention Memphis at plus 750. I get people don't like this team because they're a little
No,
bit over the top in terms of confidence. Adams has been out, and he's probably the best rebounder in the league. But at the same point, they're the 2 seed, and they have 3 games of cushion in front of Sacramento. The 2 seed, though, that has some playoff experience from last year,
and they're
plus
good.
750.
And they're good. Like let's not take it away from every. First of all, first thing, every single team in the NBA has a bad stretch during the season. It's an 82 game season that stretches from October to April. Every single team has a bad stretch. Every single team. We got to take away that Memphis is still a good basketball team. Like they're still a good basketball team with good pieces. There may be, you may not like their off-court antics. You may not like them, and it's the same thing with the Suns. You may not like how much they talk. At the end of the day, what you cannot take from them is that they're a good team. And if the stars align for them and they get the matchups that they like, they absolutely can make a run. So I think that at plus 750, well, at least for me, they're in the conversation.
I think they have to be for those odds. Now, you're saying, if the stars align, they get the matchups they like. I guess my question is, we know Golden State kind of owns this team, if we're being honest. But ignoring Golden State, which matchup are the Grizzlies extremely worried about? Because I'm not sure if I see another one, and it's just mental with Golden State. Golden State just owns them mentally. Do you
I
think
think
Memphis is
I
actually
think the
like a bad?
Clippers.
You think the Clippers?
Yeah, I think the Clippers is a matchup that if I'm Memphis, I'm like, I mean, we can get past them, but like they're still good defensively. They have the interior defense from Zubac, who is really really good defensively this year. And now you're bringing Mason Plumlee off the bench as well. They're gonna really give Steven Adams some problems. And as we've seen over the past few weeks, without Steven Adams there rebounding, this Memphis team has been really been struggling. So I think that they can kind of help neutralize Steven Adams in that matchup for them. And then I just like that they'll be able to contain John Morant and contain Dylan Brooks. A lot of
Brooks
these
can
other
contain
people from
himself,
driving
so
inside
you
the
don't
paint.
have to worry about Brooks.
Yeah, I know, whatever. But for the most part, I think if I'm looking at it, if I'm the Grizzlies, I think the Clippers are the team that I'm like, I'm cool if we can avoid them. I like us against every other team, but the Clippers, even though I hate the Clippers and I still think that there's an outside chance Clippers don't make the playoffs, I cannot negate the fact that I think they match up pretty well with Memphis full strength.
For the odds, though, I think that the Grizzlies went from arguably the most overrated team in the league or the most hated team to potentially the most disrespected team because they're still the
Yeah.
2 seed. Like, I
Yeah.
understand if you don't trust this team and Dylan Brooks thinks a scumbag because he's a dirty player. I get it. They're still the 2 seed, and people aren't giving them any respect whatsoever.
To be honest, if you are looking at how this is shaping up, now there could be so much variance from now to
The
then.
Western
But if you're
Conference is up
looking
for
at it right
grabs.
now, but if you're looking at the conference right now, you kind of prefer to be the 2 seed. Like you slightly prefer to be the 2 seed. Because let's say if Golden State stays in that 9-10 range, that
then
means
they
that
can't be the 7.
they can't be the 7. So you're looking at what? 7 maybe New Orleans, 7 could be Minnesota.
In New Orleans, you could argue scary, but with Zion having a setback, I'm not sure he's going to play again this season. Like, I'm not even putting any stock in New Orleans until I see Zion on a court.
Yeah, and I mean, Golden State now, like I said, it's time to go. Golden State could work themselves up to 7. Like, I really think the battle or the hope for Memphis and the Nuggets is that either Golden State does not make the playoffs or we avoid them in our seed.
No, best case scenario for Memphis is they want to see Golden State Denver or Golden State Phoenix or whatever, but they want Golden State to potentially kill all the teams surrounding them in the standings.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're telling me Golden State runs the gauntlet and then goes sees Memphis in the Western Conference Finals, Memphis is gonna be sitting there like, all right, the boys, they've been through a lot. Like they've been through a lot. Because if you're looking at how it's shaped up right now, I think they actually would have to go play. What is that? Yeah, so they would have to go play Denver, and then let's say Phoenix wins the 4-5 matchup. They'd have to play Phoenix after that. So
it's kind of why I'm not putting much stock in Golden State, but it tells you that if you're on the opposite side, you have a potential sleeper team that could completely blow up the entire bracket.
And that could mess everything up. That could completely mess everything up. Because guess what? You go through a series with Denver and Phoenix if you want to. If you come out on top, you are exhausted. You are completely exhausted. And I don't know how much more you have to give.
Yeah, but for the 750 odds, my point is Memphis, I think, has gotten to the point where they're so hated that they're actually undervalued now. Mm-hmm. So I think Memphis has value at 750.
Yeah, I do too. So Suns is a consensus for us. I really want to be able to tell you not to take the chalk and take the Suns, but I don't see it.
You can't avoid them at this point.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I would much rather have a bet on the Suns and then have another half unit sprinkled on another team in case an injury happens or anything like that. But so my second team that I'll put that on is probably going to be Memphis.
I have Memphis on that. I feel like I have to include Denver, so I'll include them. I wanted to include the Clippers, but I've seen them fall apart in the playoffs too many times. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I can't do it. So, yeah, for me, it's going to be Phoenix, Memphis, and Dallas. Those are my 3.
I just think it's a good deal for the 1 seed at around 4-1. So that's going to be my 3 teams.
So you said Phoenix, Denver, and
Memphis.
Okay, so you got Phoenix, Denver, Memphis. I got Phoenix, Memphis, Dallas. All right.
I have more on Phoenix than the other 2 teams, but
yes, of course. So if we had this one unit, if I was breaking this up one unit, I'd have like a half a unit on Phoenix, and then I'd have a quarter unit on Memphis and Dallas.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to the big dog, and that is the NBA Finals. Boston Celtics are favored at plus 275. Phoenix is right after that at plus 425. Milwaukee plus 550. Denver at plus 750. We're just gonna skip the teams that we didn't even have. Dallas is at 16-1. Memphis is at 17-1.
I'm going to put it this way, since we just went through both conferences, we have the Celtics or the Bucks, and we have the Suns, and that's basically it as far as I'm concerned. I'm not picking Denver to win a championship. I said I think they got a shot to win the West because, of course, of the 1 seed, and they're great at home. I think they're going to get torched by whichever team's in the Eastern Conference. I think Giannis would kill that team, and I think that Boston would kill that team too. So I'm not picking Denver. I think Denver, even if I'm picking them to have a realistic shot of winning the Western Conference, I think they would get absolutely exposed in a playoff series against either the Bucks or the Nuggets. So I really see 3 teams. Am I missing anybody? Because I really just see the Celtics, the Suns, and the Bucks.
Yeah, I think that if any bet that I would like to have on the Mavericks or the Grizzlies, I would much prefer just take them to win the West and not the finals. Because honestly, I think the only team that is beating Boston or Milwaukee in the NBA Finals is the Phoenix Suns, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
So even though I would love to see the script that Kyrie wins another championship this year, I would love to see that script. And I'm not going to bet on it, but I would love to see that script. For me, I'm having a hard time getting away from Phoenix, man. Like, I really having a hard time getting away from Phoenix. I just feel like getting a reinvigorated DeAndre Ayton is really, really big. Like, really, really big. And I think DeAndre Ayton is perfectly fine sucking it up for the rest of this year, at the very least, to say, all right, we got something special here, guys. Like, we got something very, very special, and we can go out here and get this done this year, and we can right the wrongs from last season, from the season before. This can finally be our year. So, one bet to place, I'm having an extremely tough time getting away from Phoenix at plus 425.
I think that's where I'm looking at too. Boston, I think, is the most talented team from top to bottom. I think they're the deepest team in the league. The problem is with coaching. And I have money, and we're going to talk about Coach of the Year in a little bit, but I have money on Mazzulla to win Coach of the Year. Except when I watch him coach, I'm not impressed. I don't think he's a good in-game coach, and I think that he's especially bad in the fourth quarter. I've seen a lot of really stagnant possessions for Boston late in games, and I think that's going to be a serious problem in the playoffs. Phoenix, they have not been great in the fourth quarter either compared to usual standards, but they also haven't had Kevin Durant play a game yet, and I'm kind of expecting that to work itself out, where they become one of the best fourth quarter teams because they have several big game shot makers down the stretch, or clutch shot makers down the stretch. I think as a result, they'll take Phoenix. Boston, I think if I had to pick by roster and I'm ignoring coach, I would pick them. But Mazzulla has really left a lot to be desired, in my opinion, and I trust Monty Williams. So I'll go with Phoenix if I had to pick my favorite value play or favorite option on the board. We're going to agree. I'm going to take Phoenix.
Yeah.
Do you agree about Mazzulla?
Yeah, I'm concerned about Mazzulla. That's why I don't think
he's fine, but I don't think he moves the needle in your favor that often.
That's why and because I don't trust Boston Celtics, but that's another reason why I don't trust Boston Celtics is because coaching hasn't, they've had decent coaches, but when it comes to these playoff series, it hasn't always materialized on the court all the time. And so it's between Phoenix and Milwaukee for me. I think that is the matchup, Phoenix and Milwaukee, but I'm going to go with Phoenix in that one.
I think I'm still going to lean Phoenix and Boston, but the point is we don't have any Cinderella runs here. We just have basically one of the 3 favorites to win the title.
Yeah, I'm not feeling any Cinderella this year. All right, let's go ahead and transition over to Coach of the Year, and I will just go ahead and give out my first Boston Celtics future.
Well, first of all, you just read off the odds first.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I don't have them in front of me.
Oh, okay. So looking at the odds for the Coach of the Year, if you could still find it at some books, you have Mazzulla as the favorite at plus 175. You have Mike Brown at plus 250. You have Mike Malone at 3-1. You have Taylor Jenkins at 750. Doc Rivers. I'm not going to bother. I feel
Yeah,
like it's
it's
only between the two guys.
after Malone. That's about it.
Once the
And
Grizzlies kind of fell apart there in the midseason stretch, I think Jenkins doesn't have a shot either. So I see 3 names.
yeah, it's really those 3. I really see only 2 names because I don't think that Malone is getting any credit for Jokic being a 3-time MVP in the voters' minds. So I really don't think Malone is in it at all. And just
I agree with
thinking
you. But the fact that they're the 1 seed, maybe if Boston's not the 1 seed, that moves the needle a little bit. But I think Jokic gets all the credit, and assuming Jokic wins MVP, they really try to disperse the awards. They try not to give the same team several award winners.
Yep.
It happens on occasion because Giannis will win MVP and Defensive Player. That's the same guy. That's not what I'm talking about. But if they give Jokic the MVP, they won't also give the Coach of the Year. That's just not going to happen, in my
I
opinion.
think it was like, what was it that year that the Jazz were just unbeatable, and everybody was like, "Oh, they're not going." They gave it to Thibodeau in New York because of his run, and I think that's something similar to what Mike Brown is trying to do here. But Boston has to collapse, like absolutely collapse, this second half of the season, and Mike Brown has to hold serve where he's at for him to win the award.
And
Honestly.
just to actually mention the standings for the West, the Kings are in 3rd. They're a game in front of the Clippers. They're a game and a half in front of the Suns. They're 2.5 above the Mavericks. But I'm only going to focus on the Clippers and the Suns because all 3 of those teams are in the same division. So if they get leapfrogged and move into 5th, then that means they finish in 3rd place in their division. They're not giving Coach of the Year to a guy who finishes in 3rd place in his division. That's not going to happen. And I think we can agree that there's a decent chance the Kings get leapfrogged by the Clippers and the Suns.
Yeah. I think it's a very good chance. I think that you could very well be looking at the Kings not even to make the playoffs. So, especially if they don't like keep up what they're doing. The second half of the season is where you see teams die.
I think there'll be a 6. I think there'll be probably a 5 or a 6 if I had to guess. But
you can't be a 5 and like you have to have momentum going in being a 5 and a 6. You can't be struggling and limping into the playoffs as a 5 and a 6 to win Coach of the Year. Like you got to have a momentum. The difference between Thibodeau, the difference between Thibodeau and Mike Brown is the fact that Thibodeau's team made a push and they held serve and was that 4. I think it was a 4 seed that year.
Yeah,
but this Kings team. Like they set the expectations too high. Now they have to hold serve at 3 for him to even be considered in Coach of the Year. I think it's Missoula's to lose. So I think Missoula is definitely where you need to, especially if you're getting plus money still, you should definitely be getting on Missoula Coach of the Year because probably in the next week or 2, it's going to be like minus 300.
I got Missoula earlier this year. The narrative's there, especially since he was named the official head coach. I think that's big for narrative purposes. That's why Mike Brown's in 2nd. It's because of narrative. It's because the Kings haven't made the playoffs in an eternity, and he's probably going to lead them there. But I do think, I agree with you, you need to finish the season on a high note. I made this case yesterday with Munaf, but it does involve the Celtics basically running the table moving forward. They have played 59 games, so they have 23 games left. They need to win 18 of them to get to 60 wins. Am I wrong for thinking the Celtics could realistically finish the season with an 18-5 record to win 60 games? They might be the only team in the league to win 60.
Yeah. No, I don't want to say
if they are the only team that wins 60, he's going to win this award by a landslide. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I mean,
then that's what happened with Phoenix last year. I think Monty was the only coach, and Phoenix was the only team to win 60.
If they don't win 60 games, then the Boston Celtics. Like that's ultimately what it is. They have to literally collapse not to finish this.
And they're at basically full strength. So
yeah, so that's my only thing, and that's why I could never bet Celtics and just trust them straight up. But I will just trust the fact that they just completely don't turn over their heads, and Missoula can walk into plus money as Coach of the Year. I still think that's actually really insane that he's still plus money. And if you're not getting down on that, you really should.
Now, for the record, I once again have money on Missoula, so I'm rooting for Missoula. I don't think he deserves it. I think he inherited a Ferrari, but I think that he's going to win it. If I had to pick really anybody to win Coach of the Year, just based on who I think deserves it, I'd probably actually go Oklahoma City's coach if I had to pick anybody. I
No,
really
so
love what he's done with that team.
if I had a vote, that's probably where my vote would go, especially if
Wait,
we
we
get
agree?
to yeah. If I had a vote, that's probably where my vote would go because it's just I would know that that's not going to be the favorite, and I probably have Missoula as like a third place vote maybe, but I'm definitely would I would probably go with OKC's coach and just saying that dog he took a team that one didn't have expectations when they had the second overall pick, then you lost the second overall pick, and now you're sitting here sniffing at the playoffs on the outside in. And don't let them actually have a good second half of the season and make a run because even though we all don't expect it to happen, still a very realistic possibility that they catch up the 1.5 games to 6.
Mhm.
Like so second half of the season, that's probably if he had a good second half of the season, that's probably where my vote would have gone. All right, let's slide over to six man of the year. I will let you read off the six man of the year odds and before I give out my second Boston Celtics future.
All right. So for the six man of the year, I'm going to treat this similarly to the coach of the year, where I'm going to name basically three guys and I'll basically ignore the rest of the options because I only see three guys who can win this award. Do we agree on that?
I will let you read off the names and
Okay.
then
So I'll
I'll
read
let you
off
know
the
if I
names
agree.
and the odds. Brogdon's a minus favorite. He's minus 165, which personally I think is ridiculous. We'll talk about that in a second. You have Norman Powell at 350. You have Maxey at 350. And you have Westbrook at 9-1. Toss him out. He's not even on a team right now. Or he is on a team. He's on the Clippers, but I don't know what his role on the team's going to be. So Westbrook throw out. You have three guys. You have Brogdon, Powell, and Maxey. Do we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know you were going to talk about Brogdon because you have a Celtics pick. So make your
Yeah,
case.
yeah. I mean, I can't get away from Malcolm Brogdon, the six man of the year, and it's the fact of consistency for Brogdon. Like it's just he's consistent. He's been very, very consistent in what he's done coming off the bench. He hasn't been one of those players that moves into the starting lineup when players are out. They actually go out of their way to make sure that he stays coming off the bench. And going into the offseason, this is what they sold Malcolm Brogdon on. Like this Boston Celtics sold him on being six man of the year. Like that's what they sold him on. They had a plan of doing that since the beginning of the season.
For the
And
record, by the
so
way, Brogdon has 0 starts.
yes, so they sold him on that role. And they tried to sell that on a couple other players. I won't say the other player's name for the fact of I don't want to lose my sword, but they sold that same dream to a couple of other players. Malcolm Brogdon was the person that ultimately took him up on it, and Malcolm Brogdon actually got to that point. Now, I didn't think that they were actually going to get to the point of making him six man of the year, but that's what it is. And I know that for the rest of the season, the next 23, 24, 25 games, whatever the fuck it is, that they are going to continue to use him in that role. They're going to continue to give him the opportunity to lead that second offense and be the main scorer for the second offense to get six man of the year. So it's not just the fact that he's playing well, but it's the fact that the organization has said, and people may not know that, but they literally said, and that's what they were preaching to free agents in the offseason, that we are trying to make you six man of the year. So I'm definitely taking Brogdon at minus 165. Now, should it really be minus 165? I don't know. We'll talk about that. But
I think it
I
should be
will
even
take the
money,
price.
in
I
my
yeah,
opinion.
it should, but I'll take the price and I'll lay the 165 with Malcolm Brogdon. The only other person I would consider is Tyrese Maxey.
Okay, I think one of the only other people I'd consider was Norman Powell, but I feel like we're going to have a discussion quickly about why I think the odds might be a little bit off. It's because Brogdon's injury history, but I guess the counter argument is Powell's injured all the time too. But the issue for Brogdon in years past has been his inavailability, which I'm pretty sure is a word. It should be a word. But the
Mm-hmm.
point is, Brogdon this year has actually not missed much time. He's only missed 9 games. You're looking at Powell, he's missed 11, so Powell's actually missed more games than him. And looking at Maxey, he missed a month earlier in the year. So the
Yep.
one thing that I feel like Maxey's going to have a hard time with is potentially overcoming the fact on his resume that he's going to be playing in less games than the two guys he's competing with, which I think is going to be a problem. But when he's on the court, he would be my vote, but he did miss a month, and we got to talk about it. So I do think that's definitely worth bringing up. Maxey has played in 38 games. So he's missed 19. I don't think he can win the award missing 19 games if Brogdon, Andash, or Powell only miss 12 tops. I think that'll be held against Maxey, in my opinion. So if I had to pick anybody right now, I probably would pick Norman Powell. Maxey would be my pick if he was healthy for most of the season. But the fact he's going to most likely finish the year playing less games than Brogdon and Powell, I think voters will hold it against him.
Yeah,
That's assuming he plays in every game the rest of the season.
yeah, it is. I think the only thing that it would be hard to ignore is if he continues the scoring. Like he's averaging 19.8 points
Oh
per
no, he's
game.
incredible.
Yeah,
Like
and if he
he's an
continue, but if
incredible
he
player.
continues that, if he averages 20 points per game coming off the bench for the second half of the season, so these next 20 plus games, if he averages 20 points per game coming off the bench, and Malcolm Brogdon does end up missing time as well, then I really think that it's a leapfrog for Maxey, and Maxey's going to become the favorite at that point.
I
But
think the problem Maxey has, besides the injuries, which caused him to miss about a month and a half, and why he's missed already 19 games, it's the fact that he's only played in 38 games, but he's
he started,
started 22 of those games.
yeah.
So he's going to need to make sure he plays, because if he doesn't, he might not qualify for the award, because I
Yeah.
believe you need to have more bench games than starter games, and there's a chance that doesn't happen. It should happen, but there's a chance it doesn't.
For the most part, I don't think that Tyrese Maxey really has a big injury. Like it's been major injuries, but I don't think he has he just gets nicked and bruised and misses games. So
It's not because of him. I'm saying if
yeah,
Harden
no.
gets hurt and he has to start, then he might be disqualified from the award.
Oh yeah, but and that is a concern because I think they will not.
I got to bring it up.
Sixers haven't hesitated. Yeah, the Sixers haven't hesitated to move him back into the starting lineup. So I agree with that. Yeah. So it really might not be
food
his
for
fault.
thought. There is a chance that if Harden gets hurt, he might not qualify for the award. Just going to throw that out there. So if I had to pick anybody right now, I'd pick Norman Powell.
Yeah, I agree. I'm still it's Brogdon, and yeah, you might have sold me on Powell being my backup to Brogdon because I think you do. If you're betting Brogdon, I think you should 100% have a backup. Like you should.
If I was picking on which player I'd rather have on my team, I would 100% take Maxey. But I got to at least point out the resume that he has for the award. He does need some stuff to go his way.
Yeah. All right. Last award on the market. I really didn't have any feelings towards this, but most improved player.
Do you want to pivot to defensive player?
Not really.
Okay. I was going to say because Jackson's minus 190.
Yeah,
so
I was about to say it's just Jackson. Like it's just Jackson. Just take Jackson. Like minus 190. Take Jackson. That's really
that's why I kind of decided to do this because at least the odds are close in this one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of narratives that you could go for why different players would get it. So what's the awards market for most improved?
So once again, you have three people that are worth anything because the fourth option's at plus 5,000. So don't even bother. You have Shea at plus 130. You have Markkanen at plus 130. And you have Brunson at 3-1. I'll ask you this just to start the conversation. Does it help or does it hurt Brunson's argument that he got snubbed for an All-Star game?
I think narrative-wise, it could help because
it could also hurt because he doesn't have the accolades. So it could be a makeup award or it could be held.
Yeah, I think it's a makeup. I think it's a makeup. It'd be a makeup award, honestly. If the Knicks are in 9.5, I mean, they could jump Brooklyn, but I really don't see them catching the Cavs, who are 4.5 games above them. I mean, if Brunson does what he's doing now and continues doing that, I think that they very well could be a makeup award. But that was my same argument for SGA. This is a makeup award because SGA is never going to be one of the top two guards in the West. Like, he's never going to be one of the top two guards in the West. No matter how good he is, they're never going to say he's one of the top two guards of the West because you have Steph and Luka there. Like, he's never going to be there. And so it's like, you got to give him something. And what do you give them? You give them most improved and say, we notice what you're doing. You're averaging 30 points per game. You're a bucket. You're him. You're really good. Unfortunately, we can't give you an all-pro. We can't give you an all-star starter.
You're going to be an all-NBA second or third team guy.
We can't give you an MVP. Like, we got to – you got to get most improved and be happy with it. And so that's why I'm like, I really think – while Laurie is a great story, I truly think it's SGA. And then you could sell me on a makeup award of sorts for Jalen Brunson as well, because Jalen Brunson is really, really going crazy.
I think we're going to agree in terms of the two guys we're looking at. I'm not picking Markkanen. If this award was based on how it was previously scored, I would have voted for Markkanen. The problem is, I think that the voters electing John Morant to be most improved last year sabotaged the integrity of the award. This doesn't feel like a most improved player award anymore. It feels like a rising star award. It feels like you're trying to give it to a blossoming superstar just to give them their flowers since they can't win the MVP, which is not what the award should be. So if you're going based on the original classical definition of the award, it should be Markkanen. But I do think Ja winning it last year is a slippery slope, and Shea gets a lot more social media recognition than Markkanen does. So I'm not picking Markkanen. I think he should
By the
win it.
way,
I don't think he's going to win.
Lauri Markkanen has a 10-point jump from what he did points-wise last season. He was averaging 14.8 points per game with the Cavs. He is now averaging 24.9 points per game.
But based on how both players are covered, according to the media, I think we would agree that if the main two finalists were Shea and Lauri, most people would vote for Shea.
It's clearly Shea.
I think it's fundamentally
you got to remember,
wrong.
It's the media voting for this award.
I think it's fundamentally
getting the most
wrong,
coverage.
But I got to bring it up. I think Lauri's going to get screwed because nobody watches Utah play basketball.
I actually don't think it's fundamentally wrong because I think Shea is we know Shea was to him, but he's averaging 30. That's a big, regardless, that is hard to do. He's averaging 30. And if he averages
improved,
30,
though, once again, I think you got to change the name of the award because we knew Shea was a dog for years.
Yeah, but and that's the thing about Ja, because Ja didn't have, I don't think, at least I'm pretty sure, Ja didn't have a 6-point jump in scoring. Shea jumped 6 points in scoring. So while I get it, and the most improved award probably is for the Pascal Siakams that they're these guys that are amounting themselves into all-star category. And yeah, I think that if you look at the past winners of the award and how they look, that they profile more to Lauri Markkanen than Shea, but ultimately where the votes are at now, you're going to have a hard time selling me that it's going to be Shea, and I think you agree as well that it's more than likely going to be Shea.
Ja had an 8-point jump last year.
Okay, so I mean that's still pretty good, but it's the fact that, and Shea is the same. It's not the fact that Ja was a second overall pick, but it's more of the fact that we knew Shea and Ja were good prior to this season, prior to last season for Ja, but it's more the fact that they didn't play, a full assortment of games because they were always hurt. And now when they have their most healthy season, they prove, I'm somebody that deserves not only to be in consideration for this award, all-pro first-team consideration, outside dark horse MVPs consideration. So, I mean, I think you just, and I think we agree, you just take Shea at plus 130.
I am going to ask you, though, with Brunson, because you can argue it's a makeup since he didn't make the All-Star game or the All-Star rosters. Is he actually improved, or does he just have a significantly higher usage rate?
I think that it is...
Because we saw him drop 45 in the playoffs against Utah, with Doncic being out. Are we sure he's improved, or does he just have a bigger role on a team?
No, I actually think he's improved. I think he's a better... Jalen Brunson of last year getting more minutes, because you got to look, he did get a lot of minutes last year towards the end of the season.
I'm just saying because he went off in the playoffs when Luka was injured. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is that even in his time, as the starter, he still didn't play as well as he's playing now. In his time as a starter, getting all that assortment of minutes and basically doing the same thing that he's doing for the Knicks, he's not playing as well as he's playing now. So I think he definitely.
I think he is playing the best in his career, but I at least have to mention that he does have the ball in his hands a lot more than he did in Dallas. That's kind of my point.
And yeah, but yeah, he does. He does.
I'm really
he does.
I'm really just.
But it's more the fact that
I'm being very harsh here. I'm just asking if you.
No, and I get that, and I get making that case. But I will say that watching Jalen Brunson this year and watching him last year, even with the extra minutes, even with the ball in his hand, he still made a very, very big jump in the offseason. And I think it's partially because he knows he could not come into New York playing the same ball that he was playing for Dallas. Even though he was good for Dallas, he could not come in New York playing the same ball that he was playing for Dallas after getting that deal. And he worked on his game, and it shows.
Now, on the other hand, you could also argue that for the most improved player award, if Brunson is the only player of these three to make the playoffs. Is that a boost? Because it's realistic
they would
that
have already
Utah
voted by
and
then.
Oklahoma City missed the playoffs.
Yeah, but no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Shai's averaging 30. Like
I'm
if
just
Shai
bringing it up
continues
there.
to average 30, the only thing that Shai could do to take him out of this award is fall out of and maybe down to 28 points per game.
I think you're going to say if they pulled them for the final 2 months of the season again.
Oh no, they're not doing that because they're actually
they're in too deep at this point. They can't tank.
Yeah, they're in playoff.
So they're going to have to go for it.
Position. All right. Anything else for the people before we get up out of here?
Not really. I wasn't sure if you want to do a lock and dog segment or just go through our favorite play, I guess. But no, it was fun going through the awards, and I hope that Kyle's right. I hope that we're right. I hope Missoula is a lock because that would make me a nice 4 digits. But hopefully he wins the award. We'll see what happens. But I'm rooting for Boston to basically run the table after the All-Star break.
Yep, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big futures better. Everybody knows that I'm not a big futures better. I prefer to get my money and get it now. But for the most part, it's a lot of markets, a lot of interest. I just can't get past the Phoenix Suns. Like they just have to prove to me that they're not going to be as good as we think they are. And I don't see a lot of scenarios when they do that. So, all right. You all know where to find us. Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Do you want to do a best bet or do you want to just wrap it up here? It's fine with
I mean, if you want to drop a best bet, we can. That's cool.
Sure. Why not? I don't know if you want to do lock and dog, but I guess I'll give out my favorite plays for both. So my dog pick's going to be Norman Powell to win 6th Man of the Year. I just think that Shai's going to be a little bit of an easy choice. That might be my lock, actually. But I think Powell at 350 has a very good case, and I do question Brogdon's overall durability. You know what? Yeah, I think my lock's going to be Shai to win Most Improved. I think letting Ja win was extremely bad for the future of the award, and I think that they're going to give it to future superstars at this point. So my lock will be Shai at like plus 130, plus 135 to win 6th Man. And my dog will be Powell to win 6th Man at plus 350.
All right, Shai for Most Improved, Powell for 6th Man. Yeah, I'm just giving Missoula. Missoula, like Boston has to have a complete. Like Boston could still fall to 2, and Missoula could still win this award. Like Boston has to have a complete, utter, total meltdown.
If they outplay Sacramento, that might just be good enough to win the award.
Yeah, like I'll just take Missoula at plus money. Like that's it. All right. Hey, let's see here. Where am I at? Oh yeah, so subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You have youtube.com/NBA Gambling Podcast. And make sure you follow us on the network. Follow the picks page, sg.pn/NBA picks. You'll see our picks that we give out there throughout the season during the daily games. Even in the days that we are not on, we'll give out picks. And other than that, I mean, that's really it. I have nothing else to say, nothing else really to do. I'm just trying to give you your time back. So I'm going to end the podcast like this. We are out of here.